Hi, everybody. So welcome back to Bambu's panel discussion. As you know, we've started doing these regularly, and what we're really aiming to do is bring together some experts in different fintech and wealth tech fields from different parts of the world to discuss how digital is affecting them. Next slide, Laura. So today, what we're going to do, we'll just do a quick introduction to the panel. We'll go through the questions and then summarize it and next steps. So let me introduce our two panelists today. We have Ivan Chang, based in Singapore from Saxo, and TC Lee from Taiwan. Ivan, why don't you give a quick intro?
Thank you, Ned, and good morning, everyone. I'm Ivan Chang. I handle the Saxo Advanced Solutions unit for APAC, which is our institutional and partnership business. I've been with Saxo for 10 years, and we've been working proactively with fintech and wealth tech participants in the industry. We are very focused on digital brokering and custodian services.
Great. Thank you, Ivan. And TC, over to you in Taiwan.
Hi, everyone. I'm TC from Templeton Financial Holding Taiwan. And we cover business from banking to insurance, life insurance, P&C insurance, and even cover business to like hospitals and brokerage, things like these. And yeah, I'm mostly responsible of the digital transformation that is happening within this group, and we're focusing on all kinds of innovation solutions that will be able to help our business grow up.
Fantastic. Thanks. Thanks, guys. And oh, have we got a bit of an echo there, Laura? Oh, that's okay, mute. Excellent. Thank you. So let's dive into the panel. So if we look today, I think we can all know that digital wealth is having a huge change on how our customers go through each of their life and their stages in their wealth. Next slide, Laura. Thanks. So what we're going to do, and what's the problem? I think the way that both advisors, the way that customers, and the way that different segments interact with their wealth has changed. So we're going to look at basically how do businesses stay relevant in this wealth management changing environment. Laura, next slide. So here's the three questions we're going to dive into today. Number one, from the customer point of view, what is that most important thing that the customer is looking for? What strategies to address that digital gap? And then some of the solutions. So diving into the first question. Ivan, maybe we'll pass it over to you. Obviously, Saxo has been around probably one of the original fintechs, didn't start just a few years ago. Saxo, maybe you can tell us, 20, 30 years, I'm not sure how long, but you cover both across a direct to customer, but also, as you say, digital brokerage and custody. As we talked before the start of the panel, there's been a huge change, particularly in the last year and a half. How do you see that in terms of your customer and how it's affected them?
Thanks, Ned. Yeah, indeed. Saxo has a 29-year history on providing fintech solutions to our clients, starting as a digital broker in 1992, and all the while maintaining pace with the innovations in this space. So for us, we are native, just as you are at Bambu, and you can see that the take-up rate on clients needing better and more reliable investments, as well as convenient choices of investments via the app has increased exponentially, 2x, 3x, 5x even on certain types of engagement that we see. So I would say that with respect to the question, what is the number one the request or number one thing on top of clients' minds is finding the right investments to generate the returns that they are thinking about.
And have you seen that there's been quite a move to both eliminate that? So people have a clear understanding what is the right type of investment. But I think with Saxo, you kind of eliminate friction as well, right? You eliminate with that, as you say, digital brokerage and custodian. Do you think that the ability for fintechs like yourself to eliminate friction has enabled customers to have a better kind of opportunity to achieve their kind of wealth goals?
Yeah, absolutely. By design, being a broker, we have in the past been very much focused on the self-directed customers, clients who know what they want to invest or trade in, predominantly more on the trading side. And there we've built a lot of tools for them, right? In terms of the ability to monitor multiple asset classes, markets at the same time, being real-time and convenient for them, execution that are robust and quick. And then in the last 5 years, we have pivoted to also create solutions for end customers to invest, albeit still fairly self-directed. We're not in the space of, for example, robo-advisors, but we are building tools for end customers to at least easily get some inspiration on investments. And the longer term clients tend to, want that a lot more. They are either not as well educated on financial literacy, or they don't know the markets well enough. There are a plethora, or a huge number of asset classes as well as instruments to choose from. How do they even decide? So there we are building out, for example, our investor platform for self-directed clients to find a suitable investments based on the ideas, the portfolios that we put on. They could read about it. There are video tutorials about it. They can get a better understanding of what's available out there, and then ultimately make that decision. We've also expanded a little bit on the engagement with wealth managers who want technologically driven investments. And there we have been working with fintech providers such as Bambu to empower the advisors and the wealth managers with the set of products that Saxo provide in combination with a suite of solutions that they could then digitally engage their clients on. So that's something that we find very beneficial for all parties involved, us being a digital engaged broker, a fintech provider, as well as the wealth manager and end clients in the whole ecosystem of providing digital investments to the end customer. So in short, we do well in self-directed client engagements and have been building up more products and services for them. And we're also embracing a whole new sub-industry of wealth managers and advisors who are now teching up to provide digital investment solutions to their clients.
I love that you used the word inspiration around wealth. That didn't used to be the thing. It used to be painful to do wealth because it was very manual. So if people can be inspired to do wealth, that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. TC in Taiwan. So Taiwan, it would be interesting to hear, as you said, Cathay Financial, one of the leading financial companies in Taiwan. How do customers perceive wealth and the kind of move to digital? What is, when you think about your customer in Taiwan, how do you think about it, both in terms of wealth and how they should kind of evolve digitally? Oh, you're on mute, TC.
Can you hear me?
Got it.
Yeah, so I think digital has been an issue recently in Taiwan. We are all talking about how digital transformation can be done, especially towards wealth management within our customers, because most of the time you see people usually they have been used to going to real banks to do their financial services. And to be honest, digital ways of doing finance is not pretty they're not used to it, actually. So what we're trying to do is to promote how powerful our tools are and how to educate people to use either it's a mobile app or to use robo more often here in Taiwan. So I think first of all, educating our customers is the most important thing, because I think most of the time we have relative mature tools ready for them to use, but the problem is that they don't know that we have these tools. Secondly, they don't know how to use it. So what we're trying to do is we try to educate these people. And what we're also trying to push is that we want to let more people involved in financial services, which I mean is that we try to cover more tools that can enable different kinds of people to use them. For example, for those high net worth people, customers, we'll try to let them know more about how our wealth management team is able to help them, what are the tools they're able to use, what are the reports, what are the portfolios they're able to help them to build. And for those who didn't really have many investment experiences, we try to promote them robo, right? So that's what we're trying to do. We try to provide them more diverse products to diverse people and try to cover more people involved in this financial ecosystem.
It's really interesting because I used to spend quite a lot of time in Taiwan. It's a very tech advanced country and has, built its economy on tech. Yet, as you say, going into some of the banks there, it does feel quite legacy from where it is. And maybe that takes us in, Laura, to the next slide, the next question number 2. What are the actual strategies? And maybe TC, we can come back to you. You talk about education. There's a gap. There's a digital gap. We all know that digital wealth is the future, right? Nobody's going to keep walking into banks. Yes, we'll still have financial advisors. In some countries, maybe in the US, that the way that robo-advisors have grown there mean that there's more adoption. What you're saying, TC, is in Taiwan, there's still less adoption. You're still having, so what, you talk about education, but what other strategies, particularly from a tech side, do you think you can use to kind of grow that customer base?
So we're actually putting pretty much effort on marketing, not only through digital channels like mobile apps. We try to let them know what are the more active investment they were able to do on our bank apps, or what are the services that we're able to provide. Other thing is that we try to promote our product a little bit more on communication apps. Like Line is very, you can see everyone using it. So we try to let more people access to this. We have some kind of official account, and let them know about these promotions. Let them know what kind of sales is going on, what kind of services is provided, and we try to let them directly link to our services from that app. So I think our IT team was also putting a lot of effort on putting these channels together to let them have a better way a more convenient, more comfortable way to access to their financial services.
I think that's a big trend in Asia, as you say, Line or the Grabs and these super apps and communication apps are actually, I think, becoming the distributor for financial products. You guys are the producers of the products, but you rightly say, Ivan, you guys service a lot of different players, and I'm sure you've seen this move across to distributors from these super apps. Is that the future, do you think?
Certainly, that's one of the major trends that we're seeing. I think as a whole, the industry in the last decade has recognized this transition towards digital engagement, right, on wealth tech, and as part of the subsegment of the fintech industry, and it's moving along quite well. And to TC's point on client education, right, we see unilaterally different financial institutions, or all financial institutions, engaging with client education in one shape or form, getting their clients used to or confident in investing via an app. And that's only a good thing, right? Because it does take some time for the user behavior to adapt to something fairly new. And I think that we have reached that level where we see an exponential uptake on digital investments by clients, regardless of their age segmentation. Obviously, it's also exacerbated by the current environment. All of us are stuck at home. We talked a bit earlier that Ned, you and I had a chat about how people are just looking for ways to interact, and one of the ways to consume information on investments has been successfully deployed by fintech players, as well as what one might call traditional financial institutions, to bring customers onto their app to get FaceTime and to use it, right? The super apps, of course, have done a tremendous job already. And in that regard, they're way ahead of the game, if you like, in customer engagement, in getting FaceTime on the apps. So they would be certainly, from a user interaction perspective, already a natural place for distribution of virtually any products, including financial products. I think that the adoption of the digital wallets are already in its I would say mature state, and it's very natural to then progress to some kind of investment products through the super apps.
I think there was I remember starting Bambu 4 or 5 years ago, and I remember suggesting to someone that maybe people will invest via a wallet or an e-commerce platform or a ride-sharing platform, and there was general kind of disbelief that that would be a thing because people, the perceived wisdom was that people would always invest only via financial institutions. But I think, as you both point out now, we're in a state whereby the level of people's willingness to invest via any technological application is increasing. Still there's a lot of trust for banks, but as you say, whether it's Line or Grab or Ali Wallet, etc., even here in Asia, Razor, who are doing a lot with their wallet, different payments. There's a lot of stuff going on there. TC, just to follow up in Taiwan, so certainly in Singapore recently, that some of the B2C players like Stashaway have done a great job in growing, and clearly in many countries these digital players have grown. Do you see in Taiwan, has anybody really kind of cracked it in digital wealth? Has anybody found the right formula yet? Like you mentioned, Line's doing a good job. Who would be kind of which, as we're talking about strategies, who do you think has done a great job in Taiwan?
I mean, to be honest, even like Line, they're not trying, they actually established their own internet banks within their corporation. So I think that's actually something that they have done really, really good, is that because they actually own the channel, right? They got the power to communicate to customers directly. And the thing that they're doing is that they are establishing their own financial institution. I think that is going to be very, very challenged for other financial institutions like Cathay, because we are actually leveraging their channel to talk to our customers. But since that they have their own services, then it becomes an issue that if they can still be neutral to provide these services to us and to our customers, or they will prefer to provide their own financial services to their customers. That could be an issue, but I think from their aspect, it's actually a very, very successful strategy. Not only just in banking services, but if they can cover business from like normal things like taxis or like deliveries, that's also going to be very, very scary if they can eventually grow up to be a very, very total solution app.
I actually, you said something there, TC, that's interesting. You called an investor our customer, but I bet you Line also calls them our customer. I think whose customer is it, right? I think I hadn't really thought about it till you said it, but we're kind of blurring the lines between who is. It used to be very clear: a bank's customer was a bank's customer, a restaurant's customer was a restaurant's customer. But as you say, TC, it's everybody's customer now, right?
That's right. Correct.
And maybe just on that point, Ivan, who is your customer, Ivan? So if you could describe who is your customer today, or do you perceive it that the customers basically across a whole range of different distributors, and you each own a part of them?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think that is going to be the trend going forward, that the ultimate end investors could come through various channels. Ultimately, they are the end customers. We, of course, have a retail business, a direct retail business. You could sign up for an account on your own directly on Saxo's website, and you become a direct client of Saxo. Or we could be distributing the investment products through, other financial intermediaries, whether they are traditional wealth managers, financial advisors, the more digital wealth providers, the robo-advisors, and any other new ideas that come along in the fintech space, including the super apps, right? So ultimately, someone is investing that money. I think the interesting thing about where this is going, I feel, the fact that the ecosystem is so intertwined, it just means that more people get served a good user experience and access to products than what they could have gotten just 5 years ago, as you've mentioned when you first founded Bambu. And that's a good thing, because in the past, unless you had millions and millions of dollars, you would not be able to access the education, the information, the knowledge, and it's seemingly unsurmountable barrier to get into investments. But now with and I think that Greater China, including Taiwan, is leading that way, leading the charge. I think Asia as a whole is leading that charge on digitization of investments. They already have products across, as TC mentioned, Line or any other apps, WeChat. and Grab in more recent years to cater for the masses, the underserved in terms of financial literacy and investments. And instead of just focusing on the top 1% or 5% of clients getting the bulk of the service, you're now making a lot more access available to someone who may be on the bottom 10% of the income strata, and still they get a good level of product access, investment advice, albeit digitally, to engage in enriching themselves in attaining their financial goals. And I think that is going to benefit everyone.
I think we'll look back on this in 10, 15 years and like this is, you're right, 5 years ago, like somebody who was 20 years old and had $100 to invest had no options, like literally no options. Yet today, everybody has the options to do it. And yeah, look, I think it's amazing. I think it's a huge change for us all. Obviously, for Saxo, you rightly say, as long as people are investing, whether it's direct, a brokerage, a new tech company, there's more AUM, there's more assets in there. So that's good. That's good for everyone. Laura, we can just put up that last question. Thank you. So we talk about strategies, but so people who watch this panel often ask, what are the actual solutions? So what are the technologies, or what are you actually using to solve this gap? So we've talked about strategies, education, marketing, partnering with different distributors. And obviously it's quite different for TC at Cathay being a financial institution and Saxo, and maybe TC will throw it over to you. How do you think, I mean, you're part of, as you say, as that kind of tech-driven part of Cathay. What is the actual technology you use? What is it, if you could speak to people who are out there who are thinking they're working at a large financial institution, they know they need to go digital with wealth. What products, what solutions, what are the actual tools they could be using?
So let me elaborate a little more through the ways we are trying to promote, like doing MarTech things. So what we find is that people are more focusing on customized services that could provide it to them, even if the advertisements should be customized. So actually, we are putting a lot of effort on observing if there's any good MarTech company that could able to help us providing some customized advertisements to our customers, because that is really when customers get the chance to know that you care about them, not only just through it could be like advertisements on your apps, or it could be a video, it could be a message, all kinds of things. You have to let them feel that you know about them, you know what are the investment that you are trying to suggest them to do. And you know them, so you're able to provide them the correct tools or the correct investment portfolios for them. So that is one thing. Yet, another thing that we're trying to do is definitely we're trying to make our robo product a little bit more powerful. It means that we're trying to provide more diverse product on this platform, not only just through mutual funds. We're now trying to let more ETFs and stocks joining our platform as well. So that's why we're trying to look for more partners towards letting our platform become more powerful. That's another thing. I think that's the two things I would like to share.
And so I think you're right on that, on the customized for each customer. And a shout out to Boon Kiat, who is the CEO at UOB Asset Management. He told me something the other day, a phrase that I now borrow from him quite a lot, so I should attribute it to him. He said, they're focused on customized simplicity. And I really like that phrase because people use hyper-personalization. But if it's customized for you and it's simple for you, you will use it. And I really like it. I think that's what you're saying, TC, is that if you can do, talking about wealth, an advert that perhaps understands that person, where they are in their financial journey, rather than just a please buy my fund, which is too generic. That's what you're focused on. Is that fair to say?
That's right. Because we don't really want to throw those garbage messages to our customers. We need to let them know that we know you, so we are providing you this service. But rather than giving you just like what Nat just shared, like please buy it, please buy the fund, please buy whatever products that we provide. Yes, that's right.
It's interesting because in our other digital engagements, we expect Netflix to know. So recently, I logged out of Netflix. When I logged back in, for some reason, it was they'd forgot all my settings, and I was getting recommended a lot of Korean dramas because I live in Singapore. A lot of people watch Korean dramas, but personally, nothing wrong with Korean dramas, but they're not for me. Yeah, and it had forgotten what I wanted to watch, and I remember being a little frustrated with the experience, right? Because we're so used to it being tailored for us. I mean, Ivan, how do you feel from Saxo? Again, looking at it, what are the tools, the solutions? What's your thoughts on this area?
Well, I'll start from TC's perspective, right? Because ultimately, the end clients, as you say, will have a certain expectation and engagement, whether it is a content that is very relevant for them, whether they are served in the language that they're very used to or they prefer, whether the type of engagement style, whether it could be a medium of video or graphics or text or audio, whatever that might be, suit them. And from TC's perspective, that's absolutely on the money, that you want to customize that delivery so that you get the most out of your client engagement. And I would say that that's a primary function of a financial institution of Cathay's brand recognition and size. Then there are players such as yourselves, Ned, Bambu, right, providing the infrastructure for portfolio creation, management, digital investment, and engagement as a fintech solution. And Saxo, on the other hand, is more of an infrastructural play. We are very good at standardizing access to markets. So whether you're accessing equities, ETFs, mutual funds, bonds, or any other investment type products, we make that access to markets in a unitized fashion so that then we can deliver that, whether you're an end customer or whether you're a fintech company like Bambu, or whether you are a bank of a certain size or financial institution of a certain size that has millions and millions of customers like Cathay. Ultimately, we play on the digital infrastructure at the back end, so that you don't have to think about how is it that if I want to expand to additional markets, additional products, do you need to now buy servers and have operations teams dealing with that? We are in a way commoditizing or standardizing an already commoditized product, right? Brokerage it's already to an extent where optimizations have come to almost diminishing returns. It's already to a level where it's so efficient, and we're making it more, you could say, encapsulating, having multi-asset available in that same way, and then make that easily accessible by the likes of digital wealth providers, financial institutions to distribute to the end clients. So our play corresponds very well in the ecosystem where the likes of Bambu and Cathay would then engage with the different facets of providing ultimately the chain of, or the value chain to the end customers. And we foresee that this will only accelerate with more and more investments in this manner. We uplift our technology consistently on the infrastructural side, dealing with back-end processes, all of the custodian asset servicing, all of the communication layer via APIs to the likes of Bambu and Cathay, right? So that this would be our, you could say, main business proposition in this new era of digital ecosystems, where clients are essentially not clearly defined, as you say, Ned, slightly more gray. Who's clients? Well, ultimately, the clients is investing through many channels, and we would like to be the kind of the base foundation infrastructure, empowering financial services systems to just engage clients in the best and right way. You have so much to offer, TC, in localization, in engagement, that there's no chance that someone and a foreign player like Saxo could ever engage in Taiwan, for example, right? So we will be the behind the bench or the back benches, providing that foundational infrastructure.
I think it's a good point, because I think that's what we're learning. I think across all of this is that what used to be very segmented, very hard, very kind of broken down by geographies, now, as you say, whether it's Saxo, different API layers, or different countries, different fintech players, if you're looking to get into digital wealth, what I used to find when I started engaging with financial institutions, there was always reasons why they couldn't or shouldn't. Oh, the customer doesn't want it, or perhaps we don't have the right tools. But today, I think the reality is all the tools are there. Yes, it's not easy. It's not all of a sudden you just kind of clap your hands and everything magically appears. There's still work to do there. But I think you're right. I think we're in an era now that institutions and the tech companies, the tech companies have got it a bit easier because they don't have a legacy system to bolt onto. They're starting from scratch, so they can build from. So I think we're in an amazing era to grow. Okay, so I think we're coming up on our half an hour. We'll maybe just wrap up with maybe a minute or two from each of you, and just as a summary. These are obviously the questions that we talked about. Maybe Ivan, we'll start with you. How would you summarize it? Like, again, the people who watch this show are really trying to work out when they are moving into digital wealth, what is that right strategy thought process? What I often say to them, and I steal it from Nike, is just do it, because there isn't really the excuses there today. Yes, it's going to be some challenges, but all the pieces are there today. What would you say to people who are looking at kind of moving to digital wealth as an institution? What would be your kind of summary advice?
Yeah, I think we've discussed this in multiple parts of our, chit chat today, and certainly the main idea that all of us agree on is the fact that there are all the pieces, albeit different pieces that need to come together to provide your customers the right user experience and the right product access. But the pieces are already there. And what's great about being in 2021 is the fact that all of these infrastructural parts can be or are already connected with one another, right? APIs are something that was implemented many years back and now coming to full fruition, connecting providers to distributors via a fintech solution provider in between, or various architectures with the super apps. I think that there is no need to think of, or there's no need to consider the complexity of building an end-to-end solution yourself, right? And that's a big change from, as you mentioned, that probably a decade ago, or even just 5 years ago, where you still think of being engaged with the downstream custodian service, the broker, buying the systems yourself, building up, and then finally, when you get down to marketing, that's already a huge amount of money spent even before you go to the clients. These days, I think financial institutions will have a lot more choices. Clearly, it needs to be screened properly, which provider you're using for each of the access. And the trustworthy and the robust providers will prevail, and picking the right partner in combination will ultimately deliver the user experience that you want. And that just means one thing for the end clients. I think end clients or investors, wherever they are in the world today, will experience in the next foreseeable future an even better investment experience. You'll get to invest virtually in anything, from the touch of your fingertips on an app that is so intuitive, so educational. It almost has a guiding hand for you, and you build your financial goals and dreams on top of something like that, which was unthinkable just 5 years ago.
I think I often I have a 18-year-old and a 21-year-old, and I tell them, these guys, you don't have to think about financial planning. The apps will do it for you. In theory, they won't have to think. TC, what's your summary? I mean, you're as I know we've talked before and we've been discussing about different projects, but you're kind of steering the ship for Cathay in terms of that digital kind of innovation. If you would give some advice to other participants or other kind of professionals out there who are steering the ship for their firms in the direction of wealth tech, what would your advice or thoughts be?
Well, to be honest, my answer is exactly the same as Ivan's. That's what I have in my mind. So I think the most important thing especially to traditional financial institutions like us, is to open your mind. And that's the reason why we're setting up the program that we are actually running, the Cathay Financial Innovation Lab, is that we try to look for as much, as more, and as valuable as more valuable startups that we're able to collaborate with, which means that we always have a limitation within one group, especially a traditional financial institution. We have a limited imagination, we have limited resources. But when we get a chance to reach out to more creative solutions, more powerful solution, we should always open our mind to collaborate with these institutions. Like actually, we had hundreds of people working on data from our end, right? We have customer data, which is actually the most important and most valuable thing within the financial institution. But what this data is just a basic. How we are able to use this data to reach out to more customers and to provide more services to them is actually an ecosystem. What we are able to provide is data, and we should leverage more solutions, more better vendors that we're able to provide more channels, more products that will be able to let the ecosystem grow up to an even bigger one. And that's what we have been working on.
That's great. And I love that idea of, again, it's kind of hard sometimes to open the mind. Like, if you've been doing it the same way for a long time, it is hard to suddenly change, right? It's not an easy task, but I think it's really good advice. And I think you're right. I think we kind of agree on this point that we know there's challenges to do it. We know it's not easy, but I think we are in an era whereby all the tools are there. You can put them together. There's not an excuse. You can't say, oh, this is not possible. I hate to say everything's possible because it's not entirely true, but what couldn't be done just even a few years ago can be done today. And I think we're seeing that huge changes. So, well, look, Ivan.
And sorry, if we have still 2 more minutes, I'd like to respond to what TC was saying, because it brought to mind something really interesting with respect to data, right? So a financial institution like Cathay would have various data with so many industries that they touch, right? Or even just looking at the individual customer, you provide so many services to the customer. You almost have, and probably will at some point, and certainly if that's a trade secret, you don't have to say anything, TC, but you would have data on the client in terms of what they're spending, what they're saving, what their paychecks are, where's the money going, you're paying for kids' education somewhere, you're having a loan for a house, you're buying a car, you have the insurance that they purchased, for their own selves and for their family. You also have their investment portfolio. I mean, you really have a 360 on their financial well-being. And at some stage, we would see, this is not prediction that I'm saying here, but I think that observations from across various people that I speak to, AI being applied to it on that data would almost be as good or even better than a human can do when it comes to financial advice, because you have so much data points of a customer that you never really had before it was digitized. And even if a human were to perform that task, you're not able to scale as fast as an AI machine could. And at some point, I do believe that firms like Cathay would make a breakthrough, or already have that breakthrough, to be able to cater for and help steer a customer's choices on spending, savings, insurance, investments, and so on, to end up in the financial goal that they intend themselves and their family to be in, say, in the retirement planning or education planning or any facets of their life, really. And I think that that's absolutely invaluable going forward for financial institutions.
I think I totally agree with Ivan, but I would say that is an advantage, but also a challenge, because customer data is actually one of the most valuable assets that we have, right? But it is always difficult and complicated when it comes to data exchange. Even if we're trying to leverage other solutions from a different company, not even just companies from Taiwan or even foreign companies, it's always an issue to giving our data to these vendors for a better use. So what we have to build our own power and own resources to digest all these data. But what is more important is that we really need to find a way to leverage these better solutions to find a balance between a confidential issue and a better solution. So that's actually what we're actually working on right now.
And it's great. Like, you're right. Data is so powerful, but also so precious, right? You can do so much with it. It's obviously, as you say, and interesting. Look, Cathay, you have hospitals and different things. One day, you would be able to kind of look at that whole life. Well, look, guys, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time on the panel today. Thank you for your views and your oversights there. Super helpful. And so, Ivan, TC, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Look forward to speaking to you again.
It's been a pleasure, Ned. And, it's always nice having a conversation on open ideas and where we're seeing on fintech with you and TC. So thank you very much for organizing this.
No problem.
Thank you for the time. Thank you.
Thank you.